Chosan Hao, wash José, wash Omun Taho Lausche. Hello. Hola, boa tarde. A set of languages just to, change a bit. Anyway, I have to thank you, Cecilia. I have to thank you, Lorenzo, for an amazing afternoon, and ALTE for an amazing conference we had so far. We are going to present, my glasses are not very good for that distance. We're going to present 4 tools, 4 assessment tools. So it's a minor, I would say, also major contribution to the dialogue. So, the LAMI practical tools for teaching and assessment based on the Council of Europe LASLLIAM Reference Guide. And the main aspect to consider is that these 4 tools have 2 main features: adequacy and appropriateness. And adequacy means that they correspond to the LASLLIAM level requirements, and appropriateness refers to the they address the suitability to address the learner's needs related to the target language on the one hand, and on the other hand, topics and communicative contexts reflect real-life use of the target language. The general guidelines. In the general guidelines, users were invited to adapt. So adaptation of what? Adaptation of content of the target language, adaptation of the context, country, region, etc. Adaptation to the educational culture, and adaptation to the learner's specific needs. Also, adaptation of the layout, adaptation of the learner's support regarding tool administration, task instruction, and regarding awareness for the learner's needs. That means including potential eventual impairments. Another issue, general issue about these 4 assessment tools are those, as you can read, and they regard first the definition of aims according to the relevant LASLLIAM scale specification. Second, task format illustration plus guidelines about the tool use. In third place, tasks with reference to the concerned key LASLLIAM descriptors. And 4, suggested outcomes in terms of action, meaning communication, what they can do, that is action quality assessment. Answers given, so the answers given by the learners, define, suggest, an overall assessment. And these 4 tools have been piloted. There's a minor math error in the slide. It's not 5 countries, it's actually 6 countries. So the countries are Italy, Germany, Greece, Norway, Slovenia, and the United Kingdom, namely Northern Ireland, and not Northern Ireland as a country. It involves 18 organizations, locations, and 107 users were involved. And I would say that according to the figures, the northeastern part of Italy had a robust contribution. So the focus, the impact, the feedback from the users tell us that the approach was very inclusive, that task suitability the tasks were suitable for the specific learning audience, The guidelines were easy to understand, were exhaustive and practical, and also that they were precise and helpful instructions for learners. But, there's always a but somewhere, somehow perceived as difficult for some learners. Also, the tasks format, they were correct, with some suggestions for improvement. And they were namely replacing words, rewording, item sequencing, different pictures, and more footnotes. These suggestions had a purpose in mind, and the purpose was, as we can understand, easily understand, to better meet the needs by avoiding or limiting possible cultural implications and sensible topics. And I think I'll give the floor now to Lorena, and the colleagues will present the 4 tools. Thank you so much.
Bonan tagon al ĉiuj. Mi estas Lorena, kaj mi reprezentas en alte Esperanton, lingvo kaj kulturo. Okay, so as my colleagues have already explained all the whys and whats and whens, we dive into the tools as such. So, tool 1. The tool is intended for volunteers and teachers in the management of the first impact in the welcome phase. It is not an assessment or a test, it is a tool. The tool has many aims. The list was very long before we cut it, but I will mention here the 3 most important. The first is the needs analysis by tapping into the learner's plurilingual repertoire, which is the key word here. The middle part of the tool, aim 2, is the diagnostics intended for placement. And the third one is to give honed examples in a progression of difficulty according to the LASLLIAM scales. The interview. It is an oral interview. After the greetings, which help us, as we see soon, to narrow down the possible outcomes, we included questions on background and questions that slowly roll into needs analysis. There was here a main challenge, the challenge of intercultural issues, because many topics in our discussions for hours, many topics are really sensitive. Topics in the religious, ethnical, and personal details have to be really carefully detailed. And therefore, guidelines were made, including the obvious, but not always so obvious ones, referring to speaking slowly and in a very clear way for everybody. We added specific notes to adapt the questions with cautions encountered when piloting and translating. More detail. The greetings, as we said, are a division. There is a distinction. No answer is an evaluation. And in case of no answer, we proceed with the needs analysis in another language and or with the help of a mediator when available. For example, in Burundi, where there is a cultural Esperanto home, we used Esperanto because of the ethnic problems that they have in Burundi. It's very dangerous to be one or the other. And if the learner answers, then the questions follow regarding the background and the present. In the right column, we see examples of the migrants' turns, and this is a collection of evidence to prove that the interactions are evolving to the LASLLIAM levels. Finally, and subsequently, there is a placement based on the LASLLIAM levels 1 to 4, where, and this is important, accuracy is less important than the overall understanding.
Καλησπέρα, εγώ είμαι η Άννα, Άννα η Μouti, και τώρα πάμε στο εργαλείο 2, προφίλ γραμματισμού και κατάταξη. So the tool 2, literacy profile and placement, as far as the reading skills is concerned, because placement test and oral skills were already included in the needs analysis and placement. So the second tool, specific aims, to provide the first part, collecting evidence about the learner's literacy profile in a language they know, in any language they know. To present, in the second phase, to present a more specific placement, diagnosis second part containing 4 components, with task to assess written skills mirroring LASLLIAM descriptors from level 1 to level 4. We have some progression difficulty in the tasks presented and used so that to cover all the 4 LASLLIAM levels. So, to be more specific, the first part includes 2 tasks. Reading in a language that the learner knows. Okay, can you read this? Showing 2 words or 1 simple sentence on a familiar topic in the learner's first or second language that could have been emerged during the interview. And the second task, writing in a language that the learner may know. Can you write in a given language by providing a blank sheet? And all the information regarding the plurilingual repertoire and the already known languages have been found during the interview. So the second part provides 4 components structured according to the progression of difficulty, again, from LASLLIAM level 1 to level 4, involving different aspects, such as text features, vocabulary, length, task type, assessment techniques, and layout. And each component has 3 tasks. They all have the same structure, one for each LASLLIAM overall scale, regarding written reception, written production, and written interaction. So the overall duration related to the administration of all these components is about 1 hour, but there might be cases that they will not complete all the 4 components because maybe the assessment will stop in the second component, that is LASLLIAM level 2. So here you can see some samples. Of course, you can see it also in the publication. This is the first component of tool 2 for the second part, representing LASLLIAM level 1. And we can see how technical writing, technical literacy, and functional literacy are combined. So in this task, they are supposed to write a personally relevant word by copying. Okay, copying is a skill related to the technical literacy. We have the photos, we have the words provided, and they will have to practice the copying activity. And here, this is another sample from the second component tool 2, meaning written interaction, okay, for the LASLLIAM level 2, where here they're supposed to fill in some personal data in a short, simple form by using practice words. You see, it is the first name, the family name, address, phone number, but this they may know, have practiced these words. They already know. And this is the suggested outcomes. So there is this suggested table that could provide an illustrative representation of the learner's profile. Of course, similar tables you may find also in the CEFR companion volume, but also to the LASLLIAM. And this is Paola Masillo on stage.
Ok, grazie Anna. Continuiamo con la presentazione del terzo tool, quindi let me now present the two specific aims of tool number 3. To provide, first of all, an example of an assessment tool designed for a single level of competence and for all the skills in the target language. And also to present specifications for tasks that can be used for achievement assessment at the end of course, here intended at the end of a segment within the ongoing learning process. Okay. The tool includes 6 tasks, one for each LASLLIAM overall scale. All 6 scales are related to level 2. In relation to such tasks, specifications are offered. For example, a description of the characteristics of the task, including the what is tested, how it is tested, how it can be marked, and how the results can be reported. The time needed for the administration of all the 6 tasks is, as you can read, 20 minutes. For each skill to be measured, a number of attributes have been identified to be taken into account when developing each task. Here I show you just an example taken from the listening skill tool. To complete the test specifications, tool number 3 also proposes a list of specific guidelines. We selected here the most important ones for us. So first of all, to present what is already addressed during the course and avoid proposing new contents, and also to check the test literacy required in terms of learners' familiarization with the task types proposed, as already covered early during the course. So, okay.
Hallo, ich freue mich, Tool 4 zu präsentieren. Mein Name ist Stefanie Dengler, and we are running out of time, so I hope I have to be fast. So tool 4, it's the end of course, a specific assessment tool, but it could also be used at the end of a segment, maybe within the learning process, to so at particular stages to reflect on the progress, on the learning progress. What are the specific aims? On tool 4, we try to highlight the horizontal progress of the learners at a particular level. In this case, we have chosen the LASLLIAM level 3, and we were focusing on the written reception skill and taking into account all the categories. I will show you an example for one category, but of course, or not of course, but we try to cover all the 5 categories and also the 4 domains. We were trying to just develop an example how you could refer to the LASLLIAM scales and how you could assess them, but it's just, we just developed 5 tasks, so it's really just a small example. So what does that mean? What is the format? I just mentioned we developed 5 reading tasks, including a template with the task specifications, and the tasks are meant to be an example, like a task type that could work out for the tool. And as task type, we have chosen either text items or text and pictures items. So I will show you an example. the example is covering the category reading for orientation and the public domain. So if you have a look at that, it is the learner can understand simple everyday signs such as parking, station, dining room, and no smoking. And we have chosen we thought it's fitting the public domain, so we were concentrating on warning or traffic signs. So you see this, there are signs, warning signs, and it is a matching task. So we have decided for this one to offer 5 signs and 4 text prompts. You could also, of course, use 4 signs and 3 text prompts. And it is, of course, a challenge to find signs and contexts that are fitting for this level. And because we are running out of time, yes, just the result, for example, that could be a suggested outcome for covering all the categories. Someone is maybe on level 3 of the LASLLIAM scala for 3 categories, and for the other 2 at level 2. So there should be like a profile. We already heard the uneven profile, so this could be shown to the learner, and we were thinking that the learner should be, or the teacher should explain the learner in the L1 and L2 language what this means and how he can continue the learning process and motivate for the learning process.
Future, ongoing projects. Let's look at the potential further steps. The group is compact. People are coming and not leaving, so we can say that the group is alive and kicking. The project is really working. Steps. Potential further steps, complete the corpus, new languages and translations added. Trace the learner's own production, and across levels, across languages, and across spoken oral, sorry. Then dissemination. We're going to develop a template, and of course this template will have to be used to organize and hold the webinars for the dissemination. Finally, mapping the impact, pulling all the threads together to make the fabric we saw in a previous picture, multicolored fabric to be used as needed. Thank you.